So Mark, what is Wordfence CLI?
My favorite product right now.
All right. Fantastic.
I really love CLI. One of the things with being in the WordPress space that I think about and that I'm very aware of is hosting companies that are running hosting at scale, or developers that are hosting multiple WordPress sites, sometimes thousands, on a handful of physical machines with thousands of containers or VMs or whatever, and just thinking about, okay, what about that use case, right? Where you want to find all the malware, and you want to detect all of the vulnerabilities in all of these sites, and you want to do it in a few minutes, okay? And Wordfence, the plugin, is designed for the WordPress end user, someone who has a site or 100 sites or 1,000 sites, and they can manage that through Wordfence Central, and that gives them a really great way to templatize their security configuration and kick off scans across their entire fleet immediately, and so on. But there's this other use case of the operations professional, or security operations team, where they have a massive file system that is shared across a large number of servers, terabytes of data, and they want to know, okay, out of 100,000 sites, which have malware and which have vulnerabilities, and oh, by the way, we'd like to actually clean the malware as well. And so we set out to building Wordfence CLI to really address that particular use case. And I think the first version we launched was malware detection. And then very shortly after that, we launched, we added vulnerability detection. And CLI will detect all known WordPress malware variants, or malware variants that affect WordPress. And is actually very useful for just any PHP application, because generally that malware attacks a lot of other PHP applications. And it'll also detect all known vulnerabilities, although the feed for our free customers is 30 days delayed. And then after we'd added those two features, we added the ability to clean infected files, or rather restore them to the pristine original if they are in the official WordPress core repository or one of the plugin repositories. So that was great. You had this great product that would go off and scan for malware, scan for vulnerabilities, and fix the infected files. But we wanted to be able to do this at scale. And so in our latest version, which I think is version 4 now, what we added was integration with Hyperscan and Vectorscan, which is an incredibly fast regular expression engine originally created by Intel, but it was then forked into an open source variant that runs on other CPU architectures other than just Intel. So what that gave us when we launched version 4, Alex, the developer who was doing the work on the product, and Alex has done an incredible job. I just have to give a huge shout out to him. But I hadn't actually played with the product, and he took it all the way to the finish line, and it had sort of gone through QA, and I thought, okay, well, I better get in there and play with it, and I'd finished the other things that I was working on, and fired up a VM, and I did a scan with CLI using the usual PCRE library, the Perl compatible regular expression library that we had been using over the previous versions. And it was great. It scanned my WordPress site in about 40 seconds. And then I switched to using the new engine, and I think it was Vectorscan, because it'll use Vector or Hyperscan. And I launched the scan, and it finished. And I was like, wow. And it said, completed in like 2.5 seconds, I think it was. And I was like, wait, what? And I, it's on my local machine. It was running on Parallels, and a VM running under Parallels, accessing local SSD, and it was just unbelievably fast. So with the latest version of CLI, what we've created is it really feels like we finally achieved the goal of providing a incredibly powerful malware and vulnerability scanner to operations teams that you can run at massive scale. We're talking about petabytes of data, and the ideal way to run CLI is preferably on the local machine where the local disk is, whether it's a RAID array or whatever it is, using that local CPU. So if you have a fleet of servers, let's say they're the file servers for your hosting operation, and you've got 100 of them. Launching 100 Wordfence CLI scans across that fleet of machines that are running concurrently, and if each of the machines has a few terabytes of data, it's going to be incredibly fast. And it's so fast that what it enables is more frequent scans for vulnerabilities and for malware, which is really a really big win from a security perspective, because you want to run those scans as frequently as possible. CLI runs from the command line. It's really built for people who are comfortable on the command line. So some of the command invocations that you can use are piping the output from one CLI command to another. If you're cleaning files, for example, that are infected with malware, it's designed to be croned. And there's all sorts of other fun things that you can do with it that we have in the documentation. So I'm incredibly excited about Wordfence CLI version 4 in particular, and what it's finally managed to achieve in terms of its relevance to operations teams and security operations teams that are running hosting at scale.